It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.
In today's world of work, employers are no longer asking for just degrees. They are looking for graduates with adaptable and work readiness skills. Welcome to EdTech Mondays Nigeria show, a platform that facilitates critical conversation on the use of technology in learning and teaching in Nigeria. My name is Peace Ichiomuha, your host for today. On the last episode, we started off by discussing the journey of EdTech adoption in Nigeria higher education. And on this episode, we will explore how technology is preparing graduates and undergraduates for employability in a tech-driven, skill-based economy. What role does technology play in bridging the gap between gown and town? Joining me today are Daniel, Idiare, and Oyelabi Timileyin. In getting to know them, Daniel is the CEO of VarsityScape, an AI-powered platform revolutionizing group and cohort-based learning. With a mission to launch over 5,000 high-impact academies in the next 3 years, VarsityScape is equipping Africa's workforce for critical sectors like healthcare, business, creative arts, renewable energy, and logistics. As a data-driven entrepreneur with experience across different verticals, Daniel's long-term mission is to build the infrastructure for African entrepreneurship, talent acceleration, and scalable career opportunities for 1 million plus young Africans in the coming decades. Thank you for joining us, Daniel.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
All right, thank you. We also have Timileyin Oyelabi, who is a final year technology education student at the University of Lagos, passionate about leveraging technology to transform learning experiences. He has hands-on experience in robotics and EdTech integration, having taught secondary school students coding and robotics. Beyond education, he is a versatile creative with expertise in voiceover, video editing, digital storytelling, as well as a strong background in electronics. Thank you so much for joining us today, Timileyin.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here on the show, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. So we can start by looking at how students are acquiring digital skills and work readiness through EdTech. How exactly is technology contributing to the acquisition of digital and soft skills? Let's have Daniel go first.
EdTech today has now taken a very pivotal place in education. Okay. And one of the reasons for that is because if you look at the state of education, especially today in Nigeria, you see that there is a lot of demand for tertiary education, but not enough universities to cater to this demand. This year alone, we had more than 2 million students, or up to 2 million students, apply for JAM, but the capacity for education in these universities, if you combine all the universities together, is just about 600,000, right? And so if you take a look at it, the demand is there, but we don't have enough capacity. Yeah. And that's why EdTech companies must begin to fill in the gap to make sure that people are ready for the future of work today. And if you look at the pace of things today in terms of development, in terms of technology and AI adoption, yes, you see that the universities are not moving fast enough. And that would be for so many reasons. But smaller education companies can move faster because they're more nimble and their programs are shorter. So if you have a program that can be completed in 3 months or less, you can accelerate the pace of development of the courses that you are teaching within that program. EdTech companies really have a very strong role to play in today's adoption of skills.
Thank you very much. He has also mentioned that there is a high demand but a low supply. And in your own opinion, Timileyin, how would you say that EdTech is shaping or adding to how students are acquiring digital skills and work readiness skills?
All right. From my own perspective as a student, I would say it's a privilege to be a student at first, and you being a university student. Little do you know that your ID card as a student go a long way for you in acquiring skills, future-ready skills, on platforms like Coursera, GitHub, what else? A lot of them. But as I said earlier on, it's a privilege to be a university student, and that is already an advantage, because should you look at the cost of acquiring digital skills these days,
Yeah.
it's a whole lot. As a university student, you're not working and you're only depending on stipend from parent or from loved ones. How are you going to save up some amount of money to, to acquire skills of that are worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe for short a period of time, like you rightly said the other time. So I could say, as a student, you're actually privileged
Yeah.
to explore this field because you are a university student.
Yeah, I agree, because for most of these digital training platforms, they'll always ask you, are you a student? Are you a worker? And if you say you're a student and you provide a valid means of identification, there's always a discount. So
Exactly.
good for all the students. Which brings me to a follow-up question, really,
right.
talking about the curriculum in our education system. How does that prepare you in your current field of study? Are you able to gain work readiness skill? Before you respond, right, I will just give a quick context. I studied agriculture in school, and every single thing I did in agriculture is quite distinct from what I'm doing now. So my field of study did not directly impact my work readiness skill or anything I do digitally, right? But for you, is your current field of study influencing what you're doing or how you're preparing for employability outside the institution body?
All right, so I would say yes and no.
Okay.
And yes, in the context that class activities, I would say, are already preparing us for future work skills or being future work ready, in the sense that, let's take it from this point, your lecturer has given you a project to do an assignment to do. Then what is the next thing? Talk to your group members and delegate duties, which bring us to soft skills like leadership.
Yes.
And you guys have to communicate. Communication skill is very, very expedient in this case. How do you communicate? Most times you don't gather together to discuss, okay, how should we work on this research? Where are we gathering data from? Most times you don't see physically. Then you resort to using WhatsApp, maybe for communication, or you're using Google Meet, or you're using Zoom to leverage that, to bridging the gap of communication. So I would say some activities we do in school right now are resulting students to using all of these digital skills to enhance the productivity of submitting good and qualified project works.
Yeah.
And, it's far beyond that. Imagine I am a technology education student, and my option as an technology education student is in electronics engineering. And believe me, most times you don't have the resources to procure some components to work on circuits, to build circuit. So platforms like, or let me say, apps like Proteus, Tinkercad, you can simulate how a circuit could work. So tell me, is that not part of being work ready? Because in the industry, in the big industry there, they don't have the luxury of doing testing, using these hardwares, this component to do testing. They'll actually be wasting a lot of resources. So the resort to using all these CAD apps like, let's say, Inventor, let's say AutoCAD, let's say for 3D designs,
Yes.
let's say, yes, and some other ones to prototype what you want to do. And in the no aspect of my answer is that, should you look at this contextually, that is not all what we needed to, what we are learning in school right now, I can't really say is all what we need to be future work ready.
Yeah.
And as you said the other time, you studied agriculture,
Yes, I
but what
did.
you are doing now is not It's not related to agriculture.
I'm obviously not in the farm. So yes.
So I would say, just imagine, just a few days ago, I stumbled on a video from NVIDIA on LinkedIn, and I saw how NVIDIA incorporated technology and machine learning into weeding on the farm. So there's this big tractor that specifically kills unwanted plants. Now, tell me, are we doing that in school currently? Or tell me, should you have an opportunity to work with big farms and you've been asked about automation, or you've been asked about some specific skill, you don't have the experience?
In my defense, I drove a tractor. If it works, in my defense, I did that. But yeah.
Wow, that's very cool. And that also reminds me, the yes part of it is that you sorting out data.
Yeah.
You get to learn how to use some Google packages like Excel, Google Sheets. You get to create forms to gather data from people all around. So that is my perspective to saying yes and no.
One core takeaway from what Timileyin has shared is that there are some skills that you can gain indirectly when he spoke about doing group work. And in doing group work, you're communicating and gaining leadership experience, which is one of the soft skills that is core for the workspace. Bringing it to Daniel, let's throw it back to your years as a student. Is there any core skill you gained in school that is quite beneficial to you in the workspace now?
All right, thank you very much. So for me, I was actually trained differently. I actually studied medicine. And the reason I studied medicine was because I wanted to go into stem cell research. I also gained some very huge interest for neurology and psychiatry at some point. And for me, those skills are actually very useful today. I mean, of course, they will be useful to me in the future because I still intend to do some form of medical research going down the line, even though I don't know if I'll find myself in the lab, right? But apart from that, there were some other skills that I picked up while in school, and they are still extremely useful to me. I was already deeply involved in technology before I gained admission to study medicine. So I got access to those skills while I was still studying at Univen and before I went on to study medicine at Kazan Federal University in Russia, right? So that for me was more of like the experience, the fact that you're in that environment like you talked about. And that is what has shaped me to be who I am today. Meeting different people who are in different professions and who can impact you in different ways.
Okay, I'm particularly happy that you got to study medicine because I did not study agriculture because that was what I wanted to study.
Okay.
I applied for medicine, but you know how the education system can be in Nigeria. The twist happened and it dumped me in agriculture.
And if I want to contribute, that's probably one of the reasons why you ended up not practicing.
I might practice in the future.
Okay. Let's see how that
But yes. What brings me to my very next question for you. What digital skills gained through EdTech are most relevant for the future of work?
Okay. So when it comes to EdTech specifically for training, I believe one of the very huge roles that it plays is EdTech is both the classroom and the toolkit.
Yeah.
Right? So when you are training students with EdTech, in EdTech, for example, you already have them use tools like maybe Slack, collaboration tools like you talked about. In that case, it is the classroom, but it's also the toolkit because those are the same tools that you use for work going forward.
Yes.
Right? And that's how I want every EdTech founder to begin to design their solution so that they are both curating the experiences that the students will meet in the workplace. So let's say, for example, you're designing for some specialists, whether it's in robotics or you're designing for some specialist in agriculture, for example. You want to curate experiences that already simulate what the work experience would be like. And that's what we preach at Vast Escape, where we're always talking about project-based learning, right? And we're always talking about gaining actual skills. And we're always talking about people learning in a group, learning collaborative skills. And so those are the skills that will be useful in the workplace. Your collaborative skills, your digital skills, your AI skills, the ability to both research data, whether using AI tools or just native old Google, right? Or crunching and analyzing what those numbers mean, right? So that's one of the reasons why EdTech will be at the forefront of education, even for universities.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have another follow-up question. As an EdTech founder, right, what roles should EdTech play? I mean, in the previous conversation, we spoke about the high demand and low supply. Drifting from that to the bridge that exists in education and employability, because in the end, the end goal is whatever you gain through education, you're able to apply it to generate money for yourself, which is where employability comes in. So what exactly can EdTech founders do to ensure that they are bridging the gap between education and employability?
All right. And this ties deeply into what we believe in
Okay.
at Vastiscape. We say any sort of training that you're organizing as an academy on our platform should get people a job, give them the skills to start their own business, or should give them a reputable certificate, which is for like maybe the open universities, which again, eventually would help them get a job or upskill,
Yes.
right, in the workplace. And we need to think about this from a design perspective. If the platform of choice encourages the people who are setting up on the academies to think in this direction, to take pre-assessments, to take post-assessments, to give certificates, to provide the actual skills, then those, instructors or academies will be incentivized to do those things. And as a result, the students on the platforms will see the benefit. And that's one of the huge reasons why people might not patronize EdTech solutions. It's because the results are not there.
Yeah.
If the results are there, if people know for sure that if I go to this school, people are willing to spend on Harvard. Why are they willing to spend on Harvard, even if it's really expensive? It's because they know I'm going to get the networks, right? I'm going to get the skills that they've promised, and I'm going to get a good job. And so the promise needs to be real for the EdTech platforms to see any form of adoption, really. And so that's what we're really focused on. We want the students to adopt it, but we want the results to be very tangible. And that's why even in our Discover page, we spotlight academies that are actually doing the work and making sure that people get the skills that they are looking for.
All right, thank you so much. In exploring how accessible workforce-ready digital skills are, how can we ensure that students in rural or underserved communities are also able to access it? Because we can debate how all these digital tools or learning platforms are majorly accessible by those in the urban areas. But in making it equitable, what would you say, in your opinion, that we can do to ensure that both parties are gaining access to all these tools that they need to be employable?
Thank you so much for that question. I could remember while growing up, because I started from a place where you don't have access to electricity. Like everyone in your surrounding use electricity. The kids watch TV, but all of a sudden it's
Kid watch TV.
the kids.
They used to send them to go and sleep.
I'm talking about all this, the Disney or the Cartoon Networks and the likes.
Oh.
And, you just don't have access to that. And, okay, like you have access to it before, but all of a sudden that privilege just stopped. And it got to me, and I started thinking. Then I was in my GSS2, and I had the opportunity of going to a village, and it's dawned on me that these children in the village don't know what Mickey Mouse is.
They don't know no Disney.
They don't know what Disney
Yes.
is. And I was like, how can this be? So something sprung in me then. My dad is an electrician, an electrical artisan. He repairs TV and some small gadget like that. And I've always been asking him, okay, Dad, we have this fan, we're not using it inside. Can we kind of do something? Because I've read from the internet that you can make a windmill from something of this nature, but is limited knowledge can't help us do something of that nature.
Yes.
Why? And why am I asking those questions? It was because when I came back from the village to the place where we live in the urban area, I was like, okay, what can we do? How can these people use what they have in their environment to generate electricity for themselves? And that has led to various questions in me and to making me study what I'm actually studying out as a technology education student with options in electrical electronics. And later on, I discovered what we call NGO, the non-government
Organization.
organizations, and I've seen what they could do. I've seen some programs they've organized for people in the rural area, some of them educational and some of them to skill up, so that they could also be relevant in the society. And later on, when I got to the university, I discovered that students are now forming NGOs, going from schools to schools, especially schools that are not privileged to have some luxurious or some important basic classroom amenities, going to those kind of environment and enlightening those students. I was wowed. I belong to the IEEE in the university, at the University of Lagos here. IEEE is a global organization that exposes students to a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
And it has helped students to also push that agenda to people in the rural area. So it is very, very interesting to note that we're now in a world that makes people think for themselves. We're no more waiting for government to do things for us.
Yeah.
As I said the other time, students are now doing things and they are following the path of being future leaders and being work ready. Because tell me, when you get to an organization, you're done with school, as I'll soon be done with school, and
Congratulations.
thank you so much. And there's this corporate social CSR,
okay.
yes. So
Corporate social responsibility.
responsibility,
Yes.
being organized by different companies.
Yes.
Now, because you have an experience in that, maybe because you've been opportune to visit a rural area and you've been able to organize something to educate the student or to educate a parent, and you've brought them into the limelight, then it won't be difficult for you to bring that initiative to add that initiative to whatsoever organization you're working with. It's not compulsory. It's a big organization. Whatsoever organization you are, your input as somebody coming from that experience, I think really, really matters.
Now, bringing it back to Daniel, how can equity be ensured so that the solutions that EdTech startup founders are building can be accessed in underserved communities?
Now, I'd like to tie that to what my colleague here said, and that is people need to take up responsibility and begin to do things for themselves. And the way I want to think about it is in terms of the things that we make available for the people who are in these regions. And the first thing is access. So we need to design and make sure that technologies and solutions are accessible, and they also have the local context of the people who are in that region, right? And so what that means is the data needs to fit the context of what they're working with, and it also needs to be something that they can use. So whether the gadgets to make use of the technology or whatever other resources are needed, the data subscription. So maybe this is where we'll need to see more engagement from companies like the telecommunications companies, building solutions that will get into the different rural areas. Companies like REV, for example, making sure that these different regions and of course government organizations like USPF, making sure that these underserved areas have access to devices. And then the other thing we also need to make sure is that these things are affordable, right? So we need to make sure that there's access, that it's affordable, and that's explainable in and of itself. And the other thing we need to make sure is that it's applicable. So what this means is that whatever we're giving these people in the underserved regions has local context, and they can apply it to both retrain the people who are in these regions and to expand the capacity of the training. So that's another thing that we also need to make sure of to ensure that whatever knowledge it is that we're taking to these underserved regions, they are able to replicate and take to other regions so that the impact of that first step is felt in a very wide region.
Thank you so much for that. So in building an impactful solution, you need to make sure that it's accessible, it is affordable, and it's adaptable. Applicable, yes, to local context.
Thank you.
And now in closing, is there any additional thing you want to share in general?
Yes. So I think the future of work is one that is really unpredictable.
Yes.
Now, if you look at the way the universities are moving today, it's really very hard to revise your curriculum in 1 year. Usually it takes about 2 to 5 years.
Yes.
And if you look at the last 5 years, our lives have radically changed from, COVID-19 to the AI adoption when ChatGPT first came out.
Yeah.
And now we have models that can swap pictures and create different kinds of videos. This has definitely not gotten to university level, and it doesn't have to be, because universities were built for one specific purpose,
Yeah.
right? To give you a degree that serves as the base point for you to build a career on top of. And so what that means is they are highly regulated, and it takes a lot for them to move, which is by design. So that's why we need to begin to look at learning as something that is lifelong. Just imagine you graduated university in 2024, and then in 2025 there's a new model. You're not going back to school to
Yeah.
revise all of that, but that's not what university is meant for. That is why we need solutions that cater to lifelong learning. We need the vocational training schools, we need the boot camps, we need the accelerators, and these are all the different use cases that we must cater to, right? If we are going to ensure that everybody's ready for the future of work that we're talking about.
Thank you so much. So it means the educational curriculum must just be flexible so that as trends are coming up, they are also able to revise it to fit or suit local context. And to you, any closing word?
Thank you so much for having me today. And I would like to say this. It's a privilege to witness this change in the university education system. I could remember prior to this time, the University of Lagos was using the curriculum called BMAS, the Benchmark Minimum Academic Standard. And this year, it's so wonderful to have the 2023 new curriculum being implemented, which started its implementation in Unilag, and it's called CCMAS,
Yeah.
the Core Curriculum Minimum Academic Standard. And it is funny how you start seeing a refurbishment in the courseworks. Now you could see 100-level students doing courses like data analytics right from their 100 level, and it's such a wonderful thing to me, because when I was using the BMAS curriculum, because the BMAS curriculum ends with my session, and I didn't have access to that, and I'm just so happy for the new set of students, and I believe they are going to make use of this opportunity to leverage and to the future work ready. Because should we are saying it is in the hands of the university or the educational system, what about the students themselves? Are the students really making use of this opportunity? Are they seizing it? Are they putting in the hard work?
Yeah.
Don't tell me because you are an engineering student, because you've been taught how to make use of the 3D printer. Okay, you've been taught how to make use of AutoCAD to make building plans. Then that ends for that semester. No, it's an opportunity for you to pick up that skill and work with it, fly with it. Your mini project, your mini class project, put it there on Twitter, put it there on Facebook, on Instagram, anywhere, your LinkedIn, write something about it. Let the world know that you are using these two. And that's it. Thank you so much.
Visibility is very, very important. Yes, I agree. A very big thank you to our guests, Timileyin and Daniel, for such rich conversation. One major takeaway from the conversation is that technology, when used right, can bridge the gap between education and career. We therefore need to rethink how our students are being prepared for the future of work. Dear listeners, we would love to hear your thoughts. What ways can technology prepare our youth for the future of work? Send us an SMS or WhatsApp message at 07031650809 or call 07064020742. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Share your thoughts on our WhatsApp and Telegram channels at EdTech Mondays Nigeria. Don't forget, you can always catch up on previous episodes on Spotify at EdTech Mondays Nigeria, and YouTube at CC Hub Africa. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, share, subscribe, and stay updated on future episodes. Thank you for being part of EdTech Mondays Nigeria. I remain Peace Ichamuhar, your host for today. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep pushing the boundaries of educational technology. Goodbye.
It's time for EdTech Mondays, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation and CC Hub.